Hello folks, welcome back to some more hobby nightmares. By Jove, it's been a long week so far of working, marking, and more working. If I read one more essay this week, I think I may, I don't know, give up on teaching. I'll never do that, but you know what I mean. Today's hobby nightmares will have some pictures in them because I was supposed to be doing pictures on a Friday, but I decided this week to do them on a Thursday because Friday's video I'll probably be in the office if I've already recorded it. So yes, I will be in the office. So I'm at the home office this time, so nice and stress-free. I can sit down and read my hobby nightmares with a nice cup of tea or a cold drink in the evening. The dinner's in the oven, everything's ready to go. Let's chill out and do some hobby nightmares, shall we? David says, or Dawid. Dear Mr. Exile, my name is, I'm going to call it Dawid because the V is a W. So, my name is Dawid. But for the sake of simplicity, please call me David or Dave. Alright, Dave it is. I'm a Polish immigrant living in the Midlands of the UK, so I need to apologise in advance for any mistakes. There is no sense in keeping my name secret as this email is less of a nightmare and more of a call for help. Okay, alright. For background, I'll say I'm a lonely nerd in my early 20s, trying to get out of my shell and trying to gain friends in the hobby sphere. I was in the hobby for around 3 years between the 7th and 8th editions, until my hobby group dissolved after the end of secondary school. At that time, Warhammer was the only game I knew, but now, when I started to work myself, I started to look around for a new game to enjoy and not need to sell my kidney to start playing. That is true. When you start earning money, you really do look at it as a... you start to really value money a lot more when you earn your own. However, I have a small problem. Rulebooks. More specifically, reading through chapters sacrificed for the organisation of dice rolling. I usually read through the lore section, holding my breath when absorbing stories and world building, just to stop in my tracks after 3 pages of rules and feeling deflated when coming back to them. I thought about asking for an introduction game, but getting into one without reading the rules seems inappropriate and plain rude at least, as those games should serve as an introduction to using the rules in practice. Thank you in advance. I wish you all the best. Your channel helped me when I was struggling with my mental health, which went into a downward spiral due to quite a toxic work environment. Thankfully, I changed jobs since then, and the only constants are the high visual vests, back pain, and your videos. David. Okay. P.S. I discovered your channel before the Games Workshop related boom through a video about post-apocalyptic world building that I'm getting back to once every couple of months. I was surprised when I realised it was one of your earlier videos. Now when I get the chance to get my voice heard, I would like to ask, can we hear more about Driftwood? Oh, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. Okay, so I don't know what you're asking, man, because you've laid out your problem but then not asked me a question. So what I'm going to say is, in terms of I have a small problem rule books. Okay, so it depends what your problem is. If your problem is struggling to read the rules properly, right? There are tons of resources online that you can use to actually be better at doing the rules. You know what I mean? Or at least reading the rules. But there may come a time when you have to bite the bullet and say, is this game for me? And if it isn't, then you need to go into something like one-page rules, which will be more readily available to you. And the rules for that are extremely easy to learn and to go about playing, right? But if you're really stuck into playing 40k, honesty is your best policy, my friend. If you're struggling to read the rules, you need to be honest. Every single Games Workshop store that I know, right? Don't be afraid of going in and asking them to read through the rules with you. There are 2 types of introduction into the hobby. Yes, they will run you an introduction game, that's not a problem. But what they will also do, and I've done this before when I was working there, if someone's struggling and reading the rules, and it does happen, I invite them to sit down with me and we go over them together. Right? We don't treat you like a moron. You come in, you sit down with us, and we go over them together bit by bit, and we make sure that you understand the roles. We will even do dry rolls with dice there. You know, so if I had a Space Marine here and a Tyranid here, I'd be rolling 3 to hit. There we go, I hit. And a 3 to wound. There we go, I wounded. Now you roll a save, and you minus this off your save, right? And that's how it goes. And you don't even need to be at the gaming table to do that. A Games Workshop staffer or manager will do that with you. They will sit down, take your rule book, take your codex, and will teach you the rules without needing to even be at the table. And if you need that every single time, as long as you are loyal to that Games Workshop and you spend your money in there, dude, they will help you out every single time. If you're set on an army, but you don't know the rules and you're finding it a bit daunting, go in and ask a staff member, ask a manager, tell them Northern Exile sent you, and show them this video, if you want to. If you don't, just tell them I sent you, and say you want to sit down and read some rules, and you need some help to read the rules. That's all. I got a request like that once a week, dude, and they were not from kids. Kids were too nervous to ask. It was always from dads who wanted to get back into the hobby, but had been out of it for years, right? And they'd always had a group of friends around them who could help them get into it back in the day. Now they're gone, or they've just drifted apart, you know what I mean? So, don't be afraid to ask. That's what I would say. That's my advice. And number 2, Driftwood. Yeah, that was a post-apocalyptic setting I did ages ago. And it was more as an experiment to see, you know, just to get the... Sometimes writers get an idea and they write it down just to get it out of their heads, so they can stop thinking about it, right? And Driftwood was one of those. It was a post-apocalyptic Western setting with a lot of like Fallouty bits in there too, you know? It was like a love letter to New Vegas with a load of Red Dead Redemption 2 slathered on top of it, you know? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. And the game, if you like Driftwood, man, we ran a role-playing game on the channel called Blackcoats. And Blackcoats was essentially the spiritual successor to Driftwood. And we did a full role-playing campaign, and we recorded it all. It's all on the channel. So go and have a look at it. You'll enjoy it very much. Think Men in Black, combined with Peaky Blinders and the Wild West. And you got what it's all about. Anyway, moving on. Tia says, Dear North, you can call me Tia, since that's my name, winky face. I've been listening to you for the last year and enjoy building and painting whilst listening to you share our hobby stories with class. Okay, that's 2 emojis so far, right? 2 emojis. I reckon this lovely person is trans. Every single time I've got one friend, right? And he's a guy. Well, he used to be a guy, but she is transitioning to be a woman, right? And every single text I get is filled with emojis. It's incredible. I was like all over the place. Anyway, feel free to sip your tea whenever. I'll only be giving you one prompt in this story. Okay, I'll sip it now then. I'm gonna have such egg on my face if I'm wrong. Probably am, but there we go. My hobby nightmare is currently ongoing. Oh, please don't get offended if I've said that, by the way, and you're not. You know, I'm just... Anyway, my hobby nightmare is currently ongoing, and it's not the most fun I've had in the hobby, but it is what it is, and I'm dealing with it these days. My story needs some background here before I can get into it properly, and I'm very glad you have said, and I quote, like when we listen even though we don't always agree with you, unquote. Because for this issue, I don't think we do. Okay, that's fine. I live in Ontario, Canada, in a smaller city, around 46,000 people, and I've been in and out of the hobby since 3rd edition. I have a few armies now: Slanesh, Demons, Necrons, Angry Marines, and some Dark Angels Firstborn. Okay. You're a lover of memes, my friend. But my first love and largest army is Chaos Space Marines. Pictures included to start off. Alright, let's have a little look-see, shall we? I think you're from 11, are you not? Yes, you are. That is... Do you know what? I always forget how big Imperial Knights actually are. They're massive, aren't they? Like, they're huge. I always forget how daunting they are. Wow. That is a smorgasbord of stuff on your table there, friend. That's awesome. That is awesome. I love it. Nurgle Land Raider. I love it. That eye is looking into my soul I don't like that. What is coming out of the rocket placement there? Do I want to know? Alright, moving on before I get too disturbed. A battle of the bands, Slanesh, I love it. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's brilliant. Ink them. Put some ink on those Marines, man. And thin down your paints. Thin down your paints and ink them. But that's brilliant. No, that's brilliant. I'm going to leave that on for a little bit. Alrighty, let's get on with the story, shall we? But my first love and largest army is Chaos Space Marines, pictures included to start off. Almost every model in all of my armies is either a converted Loyalist Marine, or even models from a Xenos faction converted to have weapons of a Chaos Space Marine. I have broken every rule when converting my army over the years, especially the dreaded female head-on Space Marine body. Most of the people I've played with haven't cared, as I've never modelled for advantage, always using WYSIWYG and the rule of cool. Yeah, WYSIWYG is what you see is what you get, by the way, if for those of you who don't know. So whatever you see on the model, that's what we do, right? Okay. So whatever you see on the model, that's what's being used on the model in the game. So if it's a guy with a bolt pistol and a chainsword, that's what he's got. If you can't see the frag and crack grenades on his model, he doesn't have them, right? Yeah, there you go. So that's where I start, and here is where the part I think you may want to take a sip of tea for, alright? Come on, man. Come on. I've just flipped the page. Oh. I'm a genius. I should be a profiler. Right. I am a trans woman. Get in there. I lived as a man for 36 years. Well, congratulations to you for figuring it out. For that you want to transition. Good on you. 2 years ago, I finally came out to my wife and 2 sons. Wow. Wow. That must have took some guts. I was gonna say something else, but I won't. That dude, that is amazing. That is amazing. I cannot. How do you even come to that thought process? Do you know when you're sitting there and you're thinking, yeah, I'm not happy and I don't know why, and then finally you settle on something, and you're 36. You know, this isn't one of those, misguided teenagers or whatever. No, you've gone through life, and for you to be trans, you must have been unhappy for a long time. Being in the wrong body or not realizing what you are. And dude, congratulations if you've settled on this path and that's where you are. That was an incredibly brave thing you did. Really is, to come out to your wife and kids like that. Jeez, it's good that we're more accepting these days, but can you imagine Tia back in the day? Can you imagine what it would have been like in the 70s or 80s or even 90s to be a dad who's got to come out to his kids and oh god, can you imagine? Anyway, no issues for the most part, glad to hear. Nothing has changed family wise. Well, I don't know, it has. They've got 2 mums now. Then I came out to the world and I've now started the medication to change myself physically. Okay, well, alright. My nightmare stems from the fact I am now both a trans person and a female Space Marine person. I find that I don't feel as welcome around some of the people I used to play with at the local game store, or I get a lot of looks and people whispering to each other. I'm not a pushy person, and I don't force my pronouns or feminine agenda on anyone. Both my birth name and my correct name to begin with T, so I also go by that for people who struggle with the change. Dude, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's really understanding and cool. Thank you. Yeah. I wish more people did that. It is a struggle for people, But if they've known you for years, can you imagine? The store staff are some of the best people I know when it comes to allies for the LGBTQ2++. What does that even mean? And why does that keep getting longer? What? LGBTQ++. Plus what? Am I just really northern? Anyway, maybe you can follow this up in another email. I won't read it out, but can you explain that to me? Tia, if you can. Anyway, I know when it comes to allies for the LGBTQ2++ community, but it's not the atmosphere of the store, it's the players that keep me from being able to feel comfortable or included in their hobby. I'm not complaining, as I do have some other friends who come to the store to play with me, but I guess I wish I could still be a part of the large community like I used to before the transition. I know you always say to gate off your hobby, to gatekeep your hobby, and find other people who share your hobby the way you prefer, and I really do agree with that, but trying to do that from this side of the coin is much harder than on the other side. Yeah, I imagine it is, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to hopefully share my side of the situation, as I've heard you speak about the other side previously. Not that it's one of the V's. Not that it's one versus the other. Okay, fair enough. You didn't put a full stop in between the V and the S for versus there. Never mind. Not that it's one versus the other. At least you and your listeners can hear from one small voice in the trans Warhammer community, and maybe see that we're not trying to change your hobby. We're just trying we're just making the creative side of it fit our preferences, not necessarily a gender or, you know, sexual thing, by the way, and feel more represented in our hobby. And by the way, when I started, you could literally make a sweet hover tank out of an old deodorant stick and some spoons, and it was okay to use. So a girl head or orc-headed marine is far from the heresy it's claimed to be. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to read this, hopefully, and any advice you might have would be appreciated, as I know it's a difficult situation on both sides. I understand if you don't have much advice for me. I'm just sharing my experience with you and your listeners, and that is enough for me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and make sure to say something nice to Mrs. North every chance you can. She deserves it. All wives do. They rock. Well, you would say that. You're a wife too now. But yeah, how do I put it this way? Yeah, congratulations, man, and congratulations for coming out and finding yourself, and, you know, being on the cool side there. In terms of your situation, you haven't given many strict examples of what's going on, so I can't really give you too much advice because, again, as I say in another video this week, I'm not living your experience. I'm not trans myself. Do you know what I mean? So I can't really speak with authority and tell you what you should and shouldn't do. What I would do is very carefully examine the reception you're getting, because you seem to be somebody with their head screwed on tightly, which is good. So, if you're examining your hobby space, the reaction you're getting might be, oh my god, he's a woman now. Right? Do you know what I'm saying? Oh my god, they're still referring to you as he. They're like, oh my god, that's a woman now. Right? It might just take people some time to adjust and get through to it. Some people who don't know you, but see a man who hasn't transitioned yet, but is starting his journey into being a woman, right, will be put off because it's not usual. You know, trans people aren't usual. They're not. There aren't tons of them around. There's more now because it's more accepting. People are getting more accepting. But what you need to be very careful of is, you know, don't try and, shall we say, be antagonistic about it in the store, because that would give people ammunition to say, well, now you are trying to change the hobby, you are trying to change my space, you are trying to get in my face about things that aren't to do with the hobby. And to be honest with you, mate, they'd be quite right to do that as well, because they'd be like, no, I don't want that, right? I fully accept your right to be here, and I'm never going to have a go at you because of what or who you are, but you being antagonistic about it is ruining my hobby time. So be very careful. So what I would do, whenever I go, I'd make a note of who's maybe being a bit weird with you, and go out of your way to play with those people, and say to them, hey man, I know I'm going through a change right now, and I'm sorry if it makes you feel weird, and I'm not trying to make you feel bad at all, right? That's not what I'm trying to do. Just know, I accept the fact that you think it's odd. You may think it's odd, or like it freaks you out a bit. That's fine, and I'm cool with that, man. I'm not offended. You know, I wanted to play a game with you because I think you're cool. That's all. That's all. All right. If you say that, I don't know of a single person in the modern world under the age of, say, 40 odd who's going to go, that's horrible, get out of my face. You know, they're all going to go, cool, all right, thanks, dude. Yeah, it's just a change, that's all. Or I'm not used to it, that's all, mate. I'm really sorry about that, but I'm gonna try, and stick with me. I'll get it right, And you will be surprised, especially in this hobby. You will be surprised about how accepting people can be. So make sure that one, you make sure you look around and you know where that behaviour's coming from. It's not always going to be coming from a bad place. As one of those people who would be freaked out, and I would, because I don't know you, or even if I did know you, be like, oh my god, that's a woman now. Right? So be very, very careful, because I can't speak to your experience, but I can speak to theirs. And theirs will be very much like, oh my god, that's a trans woman, right? I don't know what to say. I don't want to offend her. What do I do? Do I do this? Do I do that? Right? Okay? It's exactly the same. Exactly the same. It's the same. I have a few friends who are Muslims, right? And I'm Jewish, or converted Jewish, and it's exactly the same look I get from them. I imagine they're like, oh my god, like, when they find out, like, oh my god, it's just, what do I say to not offend you? It's like, don't just say what you want. It's fine, we're all cool here. So I can speak to their experience, and so just be understanding and try and make sure you understand where that attitude is coming from. Now, if it is coming from a really bad place, that's when you want to say, I gatekeep those people away from you. Just say, I don't want to play with them, right? I don't want to play with them. Don't cause a ruckus. Don't want to play with them. And make sure you tell somebody who's around you that, just so you know, if we're doing an event or anything like that, I don't want to play with that person, because I don't feel like that they like me because of my change, right? But be very sure before you say that as well, because again, people might just be being weird with you because they find it weird and they're not used to it. So make sure you know what you're stepping into. But it's a minefield you've stepped on, Tia, my friend. It's a minefield. So congratulations to you, and I hope it all works out for you. All right. Okay. Moving on. Ken Upton says, Dear North, you can call me Ken. Well, I hope so, because you've put your second name on the sign-up sheet there. You've read one of my posts before, and I've been trying to write about my hobby nightmares for a little over a year now. Okay, let's take these on there so I know what I'm doing. Yeah. I've been in the hobby since 1997, so I have quite a list of terrible moments to talk about through the decades. Despite my efforts, I've been unable to type out my long and twisted tales simply because there are so many stories and people that it's hard to put into a single cohesive narrative. Dude, you need to write an autobiography or something. I've decided to trim everything down to the most relevant and interesting, and I've also decided to separate them into chunks so that my co-workers stop getting annoyed at my loud, clumsy typing all morning. That cracks me up. That my channel's making somebody annoy their work colleagues. So let us start at the beginning with my first few months of 40k. In 1997, I started high school, and every day I would walk home from school, and I noticed that by the time I made it to my driveway, that the only one other kid was walking in the same direction. He would pass my house, cross the road, and enter the only building over 3 floors on this side of the city. I followed this kid home to my house for an entire year before finally catching up to him and talking to him in my second year. His name was Jay, and it turned out he was the stepbrother of another kid I had met in one of my classes named Nick. In time, we all started to hang out after school, and one day I mentioned Hero Quest whilst discussing cool games, and immediately Jay and Nick began pulling boxes out of their closet. They dumped the boxes out, and suddenly the carpet was covered in Orcs, Eldar, Space Wolves, boo, Tyranids, Epic Titans, Armorcast Titans, and all manner of other minis. I had never seen anything like it. Then they started pulling out codexes and White Dwarf magazines, and I was immediately hooked. They warned me, however, that a new edition was coming soon, so I should avoid buying anything until the new edition comes out. A few weeks later, 3rd edition dropped. We drove a few towns away to buy the starter set, and Nick took the rulebook, Jay took the Eldar, and I was given the Marines. Within days we had the models built, and we put some terrain together using some White Dwarf card buildings and Necromunda terrain that they had, and we started playing, without understanding the rules at all. All been there, mate. I did that when I was a kid too. We played incorrectly for a few months, and there were a few heated rules debates. On one fateful evening, we were playing a three-way battle in my basement. Those always end in arguments. My Chaos Marines versus Nick's Space Wolves versus Jay's Eldar. Nick and Jay, being stepbrothers, were prone to arguments. At one point, around 2 AM, my god, Jay became so angry with Nick that he tried to throw a can of soda at him in his rage, and he slammed the soda directly into the centre of the table where it bounced and exploded. Models flew everywhere, soda sprayed everywhere, it woke my mum up, and I was so upset I kicked Jay out and told him to never come back. Wow. Nick packed up his stuff and left shortly afterwards. My mum called their mum, and Jay came back the next day to apologise, so we continued to game about once a week. Dude, I'm getting flashbacks to when I was a kid doing 40k too. Nah, man. That summer, I was with another friend named Nick, just hanging out on my back porch. We had just picked up the 9 Inch Nails Further Down the Spiral album, oh dear, and were giving it a listening to. So how far down the depression mode were you at this stage? I had also stopped at the local comic store and picked up the most recent issue of White Dwarf. While I flipped through its pages, the little Rogue Trader pamphlet fell onto the porch. Nick picked it up and flipped through it. Lots of places sell this Warhammer stuff, huh? Nick asked. I guess. There's 2nd Street Comics, 3 Trolls down in Nashua. I think there's one in Hookset, I began. Nah, dude, there's like 8 in town. Like 50 in the state, Nick said flatly. I snatched the pamphlet out of his hand. What are you talking about? There's only like... Wait, what the hell is DakkaDakka? I pondered over the list of stores I'd never heard of that were apparently in my city. Call them, suggested Nick. You want to go hang out at a nerd store with me? I asked. Sure, why not? So I called DakkaDakka Gaming and found out they were less than a quarter of a mile from my house. We drove over and found it easily enough, and right next door to the biggest radio station in the region. I walked in, and my life changed. For those that don't know, DakkaDakka Gaming was considered the best place to play 40k east of the Mississippi in the United States. 24 tables, all fully and uniquely terrained. A fully stocked store of Games Workshop products. Painting competitions, ladder tournaments. They invented Dreadnought Arena Combat. They had a stadium for Blood Bowl and a wacky racing game they made with 40k vehicles. A painting station, a lounge, a computer to use Army Builder. It was a dream come true. Dude, you were the luckiest kid in the world. That day, same day, I met Rafe Granger. White Dwarf fanatics might remember a letter he wrote to Paul Sawyer in White Dwarf that was put into the Word in Your Ear editor's notes. I forget the issue number, but his letter was all about the power of saying yes at tournaments. He was a great guy and taught me how to play Warhammer properly that day. After learning to play properly, I was excited to tell Nick and Jay that I understood the rules. The first moment I could, I got the two of them over to my place and told them the wondrous news. Nick no longer cared as he had a girlfriend, and Jay, well, he quit Warhammer and has never played again. Can you guess who was responsible for most of the rules arguments? Oh yeah, okay. Okay, fair enough. I'm going to say it was Nick, actually. I don't know. I'm going to say it was Nick. But I don't know why the evidence that you've given me would point to one or the other, so I'm going to say Nick. Anyway. I was a bit sad that my two friends that introduced me to the game no longer wanted to play, but I had discovered DakkaDakka. Who needs two arguing brothers when you can play against Golden Demon winners and paid rogue traders on a daily basis? Soon enough, I had 3+ points of Space Marines, and within another 2 years, I had several armies, and had pulled dozens of people back into the hobby, many of whom still play to this day. DakkaDakka shut down years ago, and only exists as an online forum now, but it had such a profound impact on my life. Even last night, one of my co-workers, whom I rarely cross paths with, stopped for a moment and looked at me and said, "Say, did you used to go to DakkaDakka years ago?" It turned into a 2-hour conversation of catching up on where all the old club members had ended up to over the years. Many are still around, but most aren't into Games Workshop games anymore. Anywho, I figure that's as good as a place to start as any. I can always send more nightmares and triumphs. I have plenty of inspiring tales that folks might be interested in that don't all revolve around gaming, like overcoming my depression and improving my life after disasters that had happened to me. Let me know if that's something you'd want to hear about. I'll include some of my Warhammer fan art and my current armies I'm working on, so you can post them in the background on a Friday if you'd like. Thanks for all you do, Ken Upton. Well, it won't be a Friday this week, but sure, why not? And yeah, send in more stuff. More stuff, please. More stuff, please. Right. And let's have a look, shall we? What? You drew that? Dude. Let's have a look at your armies as well. I'll put that up in a minute. Beautiful. Beautifully painted Imperial Guard. I love it. Yeah. Lovely. They're almost too clean for me, but they look lovely. They look like, I'd dirty them up if it was me, but they look amazing. Imperial Fists. Very nice, very nice. Yeah. Looking good. Looking good. Incredibly nice models, aren't they? Anyway. Wow. Wow. So this Tyranid, can I make it a bit smaller so we can see all of it? There we go. That looks amazing, man. Well done to you. That's my favourite. That is definitely my favourite. That is a really cool piece of artwork. Dude, if you want to do some drawings, I'd love for you to draw some stuff for games that I'm putting together. Email me. These are amazing. And of course your orc there as well. I love it. Absolutely love it. And in memory of DakkaDakka, we'll leave that one up as the last image of the day. Why not? Right, we'll leave that one up there as the last image of the day. Right, I love you all long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stick with me, guys, alright? Be good. And have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your evening, alright? Alright. Have a good one. Stay safe. Bye now.